Black Magic Woman podcast acknowledges the traditional owners of the land we have recorded this episode on. We also acknowledge traditional owners of the land where you, the listener or viewer, are tuning in from. We would like to pay our respects to our elders past and present and acknowledge that this always was Aboriginal land and always will be Aboriginal land.
Welcome to the Black Magic Woman podcast with Mundanara Bayles.
Welcome to another episode of the Black Magic Woman podcast. I am here on beautiful Ngunnawal country and I've got an amazing lineup of guests that are going to be part of this special episode. So on the couch with me today is Kirstie Parker, and I am going to hand over to you, my sister, to introduce yourself. So can you please share with our listeners and also now our viewers on YouTube a little bit about yourself, your mob, where you grew up, and whatever it is that we can't Google.
Thank you very much for having me. I'm really happy to be here, and I just want to wish everyone, all mob, happy NAIDOC week, and I hope that the sun is shining wherever they are, even if it's a bit chilly, as it is here on Ngunnawal and Ngambri country, here in Canberra. So my name's Kirstie Parker. I come from a big family in northwestern New South Wales. We are Uwalarai people. My family name is Lamb, and I come from a very proud line of mighty Aboriginal people. My mum was the oldest of 18 kids, and I have many aunties and uncles, nieces and nephews and family spread throughout southern Queensland and northwestern New South Wales. And I grew up all around the place, spent some time in the Pilbara in Western Australia, some time on Garniata in Adelaide, and that's where I'm based again now. And I am currently a strategic advisor to the Uluru Dialogue.
I was just about to ask you, what have you been up to lately? Because when I saw you last in Redfern, in my community, you're the CEO of the NCIE.
That's right. I moved to Adelaide in 2017 to be closer to my family, my dad, who's getting on a little bit, although he wouldn't want me to talk to him about in those terms. And also my brother is in Adelaide, and I just wanted to be a bit closer to family for a while. So since we touched down on Garniata, I've been working in Aboriginal affairs policy within the South Australian government. I did a bit of a 6-month stint with Tandanya, the National Aboriginal Cultural Institute, which was my stomping ground about 25 years ago as well. And a couple of months ago, I joined the Uluru Dialogue, which is the group that was tasked after the 2017 First Nations Constitutional Convention that came up with the Uluru Statement from the Heart to take that statement forward. And I'm working with the rest of the crew now, particularly on the First Nations Voice to Parliament referendum that we'll be having later this year.
Wow. And we all know that this is probably, this is the year 2023, and a lot of people have seen the vote yes, or it's a yes campaign. It's all over the media, social media. This is going to be the biggest year, I would say, for black fellas in particular, the biggest year probably that we'll ever experience within our lifetime. Can I get you to share some of your advice for some of our mob that whether we're on this side or that side of the vote, I could see unfortunately, a lot of lateral violence. I could see a lot of our mob feeling unsafe to express how they feel publicly. And sometimes I feel like that's me. So for people like myself that are listening, what would you say to them?
So I would say this to anyone. I do care how people ultimately vote, but I'm not going to impose on people a particular view because I'm really confident that when people know what the Uluru Statement is about, and I would start by encouraging people to actually read the Uluru Statement because it is a mighty set of words, but also the Voice to Parliament. I'm really confident that people will come to the right conclusion. It'll be the right conclusion for them certainly, but I think for the nation as well. And I do want to say that people will have strongly held views, and even if you do, it doesn't mean that you shouldn't allow your sisters and your brothers to maintain their dignity. People don't need to be talked down to, particularly from within our community, because we get enough of that anyway. So I would just ask people to do some research. Don't pick up everything that's being put down. We're really smart people. Otherwise, we wouldn't have survived the way that we have. But we need to thrive. And in order to do that, we need people to pay attention to this. I think it's important for our mob, obviously, but also really important for the rest of the nation because, you know, been around for a while, had a few turns around the sun. And I know that lots of Australians feel uncomfortable with our current circumstance. They know that things aren't right and they know that Australia can do better. And obviously I am a proponent for the voice, unashamedly, yes. I'm a signatory to the Uluru Statement from the Heart. And I also want to say, some mobs say, I haven't personally been told about this voice, and I would encourage people to reach out. There's heaps of places you can get information about this, and also encourage people to suspend their cynicism, perfectly justifiable cynicism because we've suffered extreme negligence and, you know, quite violent actions in some instances within Australian society, but this is a real opportunity.
All righty. Well, tell me, what do you hope to get out of being part of this amazing First Nations Leadership Luncheon, which we're here today on Ngunnawal country? You've come here to share a little bit about the work that you're doing, and what do you hope to share with the audience that are going to be here today?
I'm obviously going to just share my experience, but I'm thrilled to be sharing a stage with some other amazing First Nations people. And I hope that anyone that comes to this lunch goes away with a boost in their hearts and think we can be okay because our people are so mighty. Very different opinions, very different experiences, but we are all of this place and, you know, we're courageous, we're brave, patient, some would say too patient, but the time has come. So, I mean, I really hope that people think we're at a point in Australian history. You know, the theme of NAIDOC Week this year is for our elders. I want people to remember our elders and know that we're all here standing on the shoulders of giants, and to go away feeling good about themselves because we deserve to feel good.
That was going to be my last question, is what does NAIDOC Week mean to you? I love NAIDOC Week, but I feel like every week should be NAIDOC Week. Every day. Every day.
NAIDOC Week is about celebrating ourselves and our mighty cultures and how we are with each other. And, you know, yes, non-Aboriginal people can also have a window into our communities, but it's really about our communities celebrating who we are and how we got here and remembering those that have led the way.
Yeah. I was on a panel yesterday with a deadly sister, Laura Thompson. Curry Circle, amazing earrings and clothing the gaps. And she talked about what NAIDOC meant to her. And she said, you know, it's like coming together and having our big, like a big barbecue. We're reconnecting, we're re-strengthening. And it's like this ceremony that we're doing in modern day Australia where we make sure that our kids know who their mob is. This is your auntie, this is your uncle. And it made me think of my dad. One NAIDOC week at Musgrave Park, one NAIDOC week. He's ringing me. Where are you? And I got there at about 2:30 in the afternoon and he was livid. He said, all day people have been asking, where's your daughter? And no one's seen you. Don't come here again at 2:00. One NAIDOC week in my whole life, I decided to go and, you know, have lunch and meet up with a friend, never again. So I knew that, you know, for my dad not to be able to say, yeah, my daughter's here, she's over there, whatever, he wasn't happy. So yesterday when Laura said, this is about our families coming back together and reconnecting and making sure that we know where we belong. You know, I live on the sunny coast now, and it's a different community. It's a very white community. And I can see the challenges for my kids in feeling proud and confident as Aboriginal kids, Kooris or Murris. So, yeah, NAIDOC Week for me, I don't want them to just think, hey, the school's celebrating us today or this week. I want them in particularly living on the sunny coast in the community. I want them to feel proud and celebrated every other day.
And for other Australians to see us every day as well. As you know, I knew your dad. He was the most incredible, staunch human being, and obviously very loving as well. But, you know, these are the roles of our elders. You know, they growl us when they feel that they need to, but it's all done out of love. And I'd love to finish with a shout out to my family who are in, as I said, northwestern New South Wales and in southern Queensland, the mighty Lamb family and all of those who sail with us. We are descended from an ancestor whose name literally translates to big heart.
Wow.
And that's what NAIDOC Week is about for me. It's this like boost in our hearts where we can just be amongst each other and love each other. And when other Australians see how magnificent and mighty we are, I challenge people not to fall in love with us as well.
I absolutely love it. What an amazing way to wrap up this yarn. Can I just say, I cannot wait to get on the stage and hear this panel discussion. Next year, you have to come to Ngunnawal country to catch the First Nations Leadership Luncheon. So thank you very much.
And hopefully I'll see people next NAIDOC Week because it's on Garnayata. I'll see everyone there as well.
There you go. On that note, thank you very much.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Deadly. And I was going to say the love hearts. You've got the love heart, and I had all my earrings.
Have you got pride and love heart?
I chose
God.
House of Dizzy today because I wore Koori Circle yesterday. So I saw the love heart. Lift up the...
This is by my partner, Dee Yindamin-Kali, who is performing.
Entertainment.
Yeah.
There you go. Check out Dee Yindamin-Kali.
Dee Yindamin-Kali.
Yindamin-Kali. I've been trying to pronounce that name this morning with my notes.
And her business is Yindi Arts. She does this. It's reclaimed wood and resin, and she makes every piece with love.
I love it. All righty. I videoed as I walked in to put on my Insta today. Deadly. Thank you. Here we are with another fantastic guest who will also be on the panel of the First Nations Leadership Luncheon here on Ngunnawal country. Justin Mohamed, people might know of you or heard of you. If not, this is the other half of the amazing Janine Mohamed. Dr. Janine Mohamed.
Dr. Janine Mohamed.
There you go.
Adjunct professor. There's, I don't know, my wife anyway.
Big sister, auntie, all of those. Big shout out to you, Matida. I cannot wait for people to hear a little bit about your story. So can we just start off with, tell us who your mob is and a little bit about where you grew up.
Yeah, well, I'm Justin Mohamed, the Ambassador for First Nations people. I'm Garang from Bundaberg in Queensland. That's predominantly, I was born at Sunshine Coast, but I only lived there for about a year, so I can't really remember that much other than going back to visit. But all of my younger life grew up in Bundaberg around family, went to school there, started work there, and that's where most of my family lived, but probably far as up to Innisfail down to Brisbane. But at the age of 19, I moved down to Victoria, of all places, in the middle of winter, which was a huge shock for a Queenslander. And I ended up staying there, which I was going to stay for a short time, about 20 years, in a place on Yorta country in Shepparton. So that was my start, and that's where I kind of attribute my Aboriginal affairs, advocacy and knowing how all this works from a community point of view was kind of based in that with many of those great Yorta people and extending around Victoria, which pretty organised activists down there.
Yeah.
So I learned from a community controlled basis, and has kind of taken me up to where I am now. So
too deadly.
That's me. Yeah.
So I have had the absolute privilege of working with your sister, Katrina Johnson. Big shout out to you, my beautiful sister over in New York. Where is she?
Wilmington, so North Carolina.
North Carolina. I don't know why I think of New York. That's Patty Mills.
And can I say that it's her birthday today?
Oh, stop.
She's 50-year-old.
Big happy birthday.
Should I have said that? But anyway.
I still look at 21, my sister. But she has been, literally the driving force behind the course that I've been studying, the Masters of Indigenous Business Leadership at Monash University. So I just want to big shout out because this deadliness just keeps getting deadlier. So tell us, what led you to becoming the inaugural ambassador for First Nations people in the Department
of Foreign Affairs and Trade.
Yes, with Penny Wong.
Penny Wong's the minister, which appointed me. I had this question from a primary school young fellow up in Torres Strait. He said, I want to be in your position when I get older. How do I get there? And why did you take on this? Or how did you get there? To be honest, like 12 months ago, this role wasn't even heard of. The minister mentioned something in her early speech, how she was going to be Minister of Foreign Affairs, but also having First Nations people reflected in part of a foreign affairs policy. Now, how that was going to happen, no one really knew. So when people say, how did I get here? Fundamentally, I spent like my first 26 years of work, as I said, as a 19-year-old in the community-controlled sector and met so many great leaders. And from that sort of advocacy side of things, connections, and as you get a bit older, a lot older now, the connections that I have across Australia, that's fundamentally what, that was, I had to write down what I had done in my past, and that's potentially how I got this role. And so I really call this out, that people that are in community, working for community, that are running community-controlled organisations, that are doing that work around there, it can lead you anywhere if you do it. I mean, I would never have thought I was going to be in this role. This is my first Commonwealth government role that I've ever had.
Can I say, not just on behalf of myself, which, I want to say big congratulations, but I know we do everything for our families and we do everything for our community. How does it make you feel knowing that you're representing our mob at the highest level? Yeah. Big responsibility. But how is your family and community, the ones that are near and dear to you, how have they received the news?
Yeah, to be truthful, at some time, especially this week for some reason, I'm seeing stuff on telly and I'm at events watching our elders and getting acknowledged for the work that they've done. I'm watching our young, women and men performing and doing these great things, and it's been a bit emotional actually, because it just makes you feel so proud, feel so deadly to be black, but then realising that I'm the ambassador, and when I meet other ambassadors from other countries who want to know about us as First Nations people and how much they respect who we are, it's a real honour. It's a privilege. In my event or my function that they had for me to acknowledge and the event to welcome me in, I suppose, I had my traditional owner group, the chairperson came down and spoke about it. But when he spoke, I didn't know what he was going to speak about, but he talked about my grandmother and my aunties and uncles who've contributed to, in that area, the Grand mob, what they've done there. They didn't have national or international roles, but I felt, to be able to honour them and what they've given me. It's been such a real privilege. But look, I kind of pinch myself regularly now and go, this is really, I'm in this role. But on top of that, I know the responsibility of what I do over the next couple of years is something which I need to, and I've spoken to our team about this. What we build now, the foundation, is really for the next ambassador and the next staff that comes through. So this role is going to be here forever and a day, and the Australian government should be able to say we can't do without an ambassador for First Nations people.
It just makes sense. I saw in the media release from Penny Wong that, we as First Nations peoples, the oldest living continuous civilizational culture in world history, we are the first diplomats. That was in the media release. The first diplomats. So this makes sense to have us
exactly
in this role.
Yeah.
As, welcoming, and not just even welcoming, foreign visitors and other diplomats, but showing them how we did business, showing them ways that we can, work together, live together, run a country that would, I keep thinking of my Aunt Lilla Watson. She always used to say this at the Black Cart. that we must ensure that our history stretches as far in front of us as it does behind us. And each and every one of us that live in this country, now known as Australia, if you call this place home, then you've also got a responsibility. So when I think about the role that you're doing and the impact that you can have and the influence that you have on other people as well in terms of changing the mindsets or challenging some of the mindsets about who we are as First Nations peoples, and that we're not savages, we're not primitive, we're not hunting and gatherers, we're owners and runners of country.
Yeah, we're intellectual. We've run a society for tens of thousands of years, and the great thing about it, as science and researchers are getting better equipment, better tools, they're getting more focused. Our history is being even more consolidated. That this is factual. It's not this story that was told, and did they really do this, or how old are we? It's becoming factually. It's been now proven that we are the oldest living culture, but not just living in a sense, but we've had these international engagements for tens of thousands of years, and I've heard some amazing stories already. But not only the first diplomats, but the first traders in this country. So part of this role is to say, well, since foreign affairs has come in, the way we've interacted with globally from Australia as a nation, from the government, has been a very westernised approach. My task is that, okay, let's start rebirthing, pulling back, and let's dig into how we used to do this, and bringing our First Nations, our experiences, how we engage internationally into the government arena. And other countries, I've got to say, have welcomed this to the extreme. I had a meeting the other day with all the Latin American ambassadors that are here. There's 16 of them turned up, all different countries. I just said I wanted to have a roundtable conversation with them. They turned up, every single one of those countries, prepared and spoke about their treatment of First Nations people in their country and what they've been doing with their First Nations people. I didn't even ask for that. This is the conversation. That meeting went for over an hour, and they all walked out and said it's the first time we've been able to do this with Australia, and that's been something which hopefully it's going to embed how we do business, how we do foreign trade, how we make trade agreements, how we combat climate change, how we deal with human rights. Is going to have a really strong Australian First Nations presence in this, and I'm hoping that they'll be able to do this. And I know that the rest of the world globally, these countries, not only just Canada and New Zealand and the US, which we kind of tend to focus on, and we do have good relationships with them, but many other countries are really coming to us from the Nordics, a whole range of areas, Latin America, as I said, are saying we want to learn more, and they're actually acknowledging us. And I was at the UN this year, and they're acknowledging us as the grandparents of our cultural existence, and yous are the holders of culture. These are other countries telling us this Australia this, and myself as the ambassador of First Nations people. So the time, and I spoke about this last night, there is certain times of your life you go, there's an opportunity, and I think this is the opportunity now that we really grab hold of it and really embed who we are in the international framework.
Justin, all I could think about in that moment of you speaking was, if only mainstream Australians felt that way towards us, that they felt proud, that they are part of a country that houses the oldest living culture in world history. That pride and, for them to acknowledge us in that way and hold us in high regard, there is hope for the future, for the 97% of this population to educate themselves, to start building relationships with us, and to start seeing us for who we are. Yep. Not based on, all of this kind of anthropologists and archaeologists and some of the stuff that you go, we weren't that backwards that we didn't invent the wheel. We didn't invent the wheel because we didn't need the wheel. There's so many racist remarks. Anyways, I want to end this on a beautiful note and say, what does NAIDOC Week? And you already mentioned, what does NAIDOC mean to you? What about I end with this? The theme for NAIDOC Week is for our elders. How does that make you feel?
Yeah, I think it's a great theme, and I mentioned this again in the speech I said last night. So I've been thinking about pondering this, our elders, and I could only think what my elders have kind of installed in me, and I'm sure with every Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander person, they can connect at least one elder. But the three things which were put into my memory since I was a kid was, one was, is that you need to make sure what you do, you give it your best and strive for excellence. Even if you don't make it the first time, you keep striving. Pick yourself up, go again. I know that probably goes against this time we live in, but that's how I was brought up. If you get knocked or the door shuts, you keep going.
Yeah.
The other one was that don't waste the opportunities that have been afforded to you. And the last one was be proud of who you are and where you come from. And I think if we do those three things, that we can honour our elders, and we can do that for our elders, and don't waste, or let's not let these opportunities and what is being presented for us now pass us. Secondly, let's be proud of who we are, and that's who we are as Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. And we'll take that. We don't park it outside anymore. We bring it into everywhere we go.
I love that.
That's what NAIDOC means, and that's what the theme is for our elders.
How freaking amazing is that to be able to wrap up this amazing yarn? We do need to have you on for more than just 15 minutes. Yeah. Thank you very much. Enjoy the fantastic luncheon.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I cannot wait for you to hear the next guest on this special episode of the Black Magic Woman podcast. My sister Rachelle Towart, thank you so much for first and foremost inviting me to be down here to celebrate NAIDOC Week on Ngunnawal Ngambri country. Can you please introduce to our listeners and also our viewers are now on YouTube able to watch this episode, not just listen to us. Tell us a little bit about yourself, your mob and your family, where you grew up.
Yeah, so I'm a very proud Wanneroo woman like yourself, and I was born in Blacktown in Sydney. We lived out at Mount Druitt and up in the Blue Mountains for a little bit, but my dad used to work in the city and he would catch the train 6 days a week. And so my dad on a Sunday got up and went to work, and he realised that it was Sunday, so he got back off the train and he moved us. We were all going to Melbourne to live because he liked the races, and but we only had enough money to get us in fuel to Canberra, so that's actually where we stayed. He then changed his story in that we moved to Canberra to become public servants.
Oh, okay.
So I've been here.
Because that's the story that most people say.
Yeah, we moved here to be public servants, and I'm the eldest of four, and at one stage, time or another, we were all public servants. My sister, she was in the Great Barrier Reef Marine Park Authority, and she went, the national office for the Great Barrier Reef Marine Park Authority was here in Canberra, so it didn't make sense to me. So went back to Townsville and went to this to the regional office, and she went, I think when she was 21 or 22 and didn't come back.
So she's still in Townsville?
Still in Townsville.
Wow. Big shout out to you, sister.
And then my other sister, she was also a public servant, met a guy from Western Australia, and fell in love, moved over west, and they now have their own female gym business. So I think they've got 3 sites now that are called Sister Fitness, a competitor to the women's gym industry, and they've got
Fernwood. Female fitness and
that sort of thing, but they're big on Les Mills. She does, marathons. Some days I go, "Are you really my sister?" Because she's the fitness nut out of the group. And then my brother, he hasn't had it so easy. 7 years ago when I started Pipeline Talent, 4 months in, I got a phone call from my mum saying, "You need to come and get your brother's baby." And I said, "What baby?" And I found myself with a 4-month-old. And then a few months later, his brother arrived.
That's when I came into your life. Because literally within 2 months of knowing you,
baby
your
number
whole
one and
life
baby
had turned. I was with you.
We were at an event.
We were at an event. You got a call, and
I think it might have been Career Trackers or something.
I said, "What happened? What's wrong?" And you just went, "Oh my God.
Yeah.
I'm about to become a full-time carer."
Yeah.
Today. Yes. And
it's a life-changing event. We talk about this as people. We have these life-changing events that you never know where you're going to be. I talk about sliding doors. What happens if you go left? What happens if you go right? What happens if you go straight through? What happens if you stay still? We all have these sliding door moments, and these were mine. I'm now proud to say that they are 5 and 6, almost 7 and 6 and 7.
Yeah.
My little one at the moment, he's looking like, I think, Chad Morgan. He's got some really bad teeth missing, and lots of visits from the tooth fairy, and and it's school holidays. And you and I were talking prior to, as women in business, how we have to juggle and be organised. And I'm very lucky, like you are with your man, that he takes on a lot of the responsibility to get the kids places where they need to be, and
make sure that they're fed.
Yeah.
Because it's one thing that as a mum, I'm always thinking of, have you got dinner on? That's one thing I do ring and say, what he's having for dinner?
Yeah.
And he's like, what do you always ring me? It's like I don't feed my children. So big shout out to
Mark. Yep.
Our other halves, Peace and Mark, for supporting us to be able to do what we do as Black women in business. And
wouldn't be able to do it
mums
without
and
them.
parents, and it's just, I wanted to touch on cultural obligations, because when you got that phone call, you didn't think twice.
No.
You jumped straight into it, and I don't know how many times that I've done that with my sisters.
Yep.
So 4 of my sisters have been in and out of prison.
Yep.
And there's no judgment. All right, fair enough. They've got things that they're dealing with or not dealing with. Mm-hmm. And we just need to be there to pick up the pieces, and hopefully they'll be back on their feet soon. So how's your brother going now?
Yeah, we hope that, Mum's doing really well. She has loads of contact with the boys, which is wonderful. We've always said that they've got 2 mums and 2 dads. My brother hopefully is going through the process to reconnect with the boys, and we hope that that's going to happen hopefully before Christmas. The hard thing is keeping track of the family tree, because there's not just the 2 boys. They've got, I think, maybe 6 other siblings on one side, and then who knows on the other. But we're always meeting another sibling, and we go, oh, we didn't know.
Stop it.
And how we share the importance of that family tree and that family connection, and making sure that they are connected, because family, you're right, it means everything to me and to you, that we will do anything and everything that we can. You and I are both very generous people. There's not a lot that we can't say no to, and that's always a really great trait. I was asked the other day, what is my word? How would you describe me? And I absolutely use the word generous. And then my team were asked while I was not in the room, how would they describe me? And they said generous, the generosity piece. So I got that they got what I wanted to give, and
well, it's embedded in us when you think about our culture, sis. It's all about the group. It's not like the Western world where it's a highly individualistic society. Yeah. It's about the group. You're part of a group.
Very much so.
And the group comes first. It's not yourself. So that's good and bad in a way, right? Because we need to look after ourselves to be able to be. I don't really want to use the term to be of service, but sometimes
we are of service.
I feel that we are of service.
Yeah.
Especially during NAIDOC week.
Yeah.
This is a time where I can't say no to a lot of events, a lot of opportunities. Jump on a call, do an interview. Can we do this podcast? Sis, can you come speak at my work? To the point where I haven't seen my kids for 4 days and I've broken a promise.
Yeah.
What's your non-negotiable?
Yeah, my non-negotiable is that I really do love to be in bed by 7:30. That's probably my non-negotiable.
I love that.
It used to be I was in bed after Home and Away, but I haven't watched Home and Away for about 20 years, probably still on.
Yeah.
I actually remember Michelle Deschong and I, when we used to be public servants back in the day, that we would sneak and have a break at 4 o'clock just to watch Bold the Beautiful. But, I think somebody asked me what was my favourite thing in the world, and I went, fresh sheets and clean pajamas.
Oh, my God. That is exactly what I love about hotel.
Yep.
When I check into a hotel, I've got to have the fresh sheets, and I've
Yep.
always got the nice pajamas. P says I've got too many pairs of pajamas.
Nobody can ever have enough pajamas.
And then when I get home, I just wish it was the same. So, Peace, you need to pick up your game. I need those luxury fresh sheets as if I was at Sofitel down on Darling Up.
I couldn't agree more. There is nothing better. I mean, I should have said that my husband doesn't cook, but he's a good cleaner. But he can't cook, so I've got to prepare all of those meals as well. So mine is just easy tray bakes and going here, put it in the oven and with Post-it notes on it. And to that point of, I've got to give him instruction. I try not to micromanage because I do micromanage my household, but particularly in my team, can't stand micromanage. I've let them run and organise the event today that we're having for NAIDOC Week, and I love that, as Aboriginal women, we've been able to barter in terms of how we've got you here today and being able to find you an EA that can bring you a whole lot of joy in terms of giving some time to breathe and making stuff happen for you, because there is nothing better than an EA.
I know, a good EA. So I know that we're running out of time.
Yeah.
We've got an event to run to. I want to just ask you quickly, what does NAIDOC Week mean to you?
NAIDOC Week means to me to showcase leadership and what good leadership means. I used to be the CEO of the Australian Indigenous Leadership Centre, so I learnt very early on from a whole range of people what leadership is and what it isn't. And the reason and the theme for today's lunch is around leadership, because leadership just doesn't happen. It comes in with respect. It comes with it doesn't necessarily come with job title. We talk about it's not about the job you hold, it's how you hold the position. And that is leadership in itself. I'm really proud of the work that Pipeline Talent does, in that we don't have executives in our ASX listed companies on boards. We're on lots of advisory boards. You get asked all the time, but where's the invitation to be on the board of RBA or on the board of
Coles or Woolies or
all of those things. And people often ask how I know that Pipeline has succeeded. And I always go back to, there's two parts. One of them is funny. I love Star Wars. I'm a big Star Wars nerd. So when I have a life-size replica of Han Solo in carbonite in my reception foyer, in a building big enough to have that and be on display. But in reality, it's being able to fly into the places that we fly into of an evening on dusk and see those buildings up in lights and say, there's an Aboriginal person that's running the show there. There's an Aboriginal board member that's making decisions for these organisations. So that's what I know that Pipeline will do. We do have some people on ASX listed boards, and we also have Brad Welsh, who's a CEO of an ASX listed company, all in the mineral sector. But where is the broader sense? We're based here in Ngunnawal and Ngambri country. We don't have an agency head. We've got an agency head in NIAA, but we don't have a secretary of a government department, and we need to change that. Otherwise, we don't see change.
That is an amazing way to be able to wrap up this deadly yarn. There needs to be more, I know. But thank you so much for bringing us all together and putting on the first ever First Nations Leadership Luncheon here on Ngunnawal Ngambri country.
Well, they used to, if I can just add for 2 seconds, that there used to be, Aboriginal hostels used to have this wonderful NAIDOC lunch, and it stopped about 7 or 8 years ago. And it was the best NAIDOC event happening around town. It was the funnest event. It wasn't that you had to go out at night and buy a ball gown to go and get dressed up as a ball, but we wanted to bring back the fun to NAIDOC Week, and we wanted to go, it's okay if you don't come back to work this afternoon. Yes. Hopefully that will happen. I don't know. I think things have changed a little bit, but so it's
we're
good networking,
reinvigorating.
We're reinvigorating the
good old times back to the present.
Yeah.
Well, I hope today is a huge success. I'm sure it will be.
Fingers and toes crossed.
And thanks so much for jumping on and having a yarn.
Awesome. Thanks,
Thank you.
Mundanara.
You're welcome. If you'd like any more info on today's guest, please visit our show notes in the episode description. A big shout out to all you Deadly Mob and allies who continue to listen, watch and support our podcast. Your feedback means the world. You can rate and review the podcast on Apple and Spotify, or even head to our socials and YouTube channel and drop us a line. We'd love to hear from you. The Black Magic Woman podcast is produced by Clint Curtis.